episode of What If I Make an Empire. In the last episode, we pretty much saw all the events leading up to this mess. Um, and I'm going to quickly summarize it. Anything that's a shade of red, except for this pure red here, is in my alliance. Anything in blue, other than all the water, well, that's not what I want. Anything in blue other than the water is all is all a coalition against me. And you know what? In this episode, we'll see the events leading up to the Great War and all, and eventually the fall of my empire. So, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like and subscribe. And let's get started. So, firstly, I'm going. We're going to see some more countries join in on the enemy side. We see South Korea, Taiwan, Vietnam, and Australia, the main ones, as well as the Philippines. Okay. We also see pretty much all these countries down here, as well as some Middle Eastern countries. But we will also see a few. I'm not gonna come up with an explanation for why all these people joined my side. They just, or the enemy side, my enemy side. They just did. But we also see Iran joins in on my side, and China joins in on my side. So, yeah, big war. There's gonna be a lot of things. This could even be an over an hour long episode. This is probably gonna be closer to 40 minutes. But let's get started. So, first thing we see, and this is the official declaration of war, but I will continue my invasion to Peru and eventually go into Ecuador, and this will officially start off kick off the war. I will then, I will then send some troops into Colombia, but mostly focus these areas. I will, I will use my two strongholds to to hopefully capture the northern coast, which I do, and then use Venezuela to invade more into Colombia. French Guiana falls pretty quickly, and I have some advances made into Brazil, but this won't last forever, as Brazil is able to push back ever so slightly, great, or not push back, but invade into ever so slightly. Where Brazil sees more success is down in Argentina, as they are already getting very close to capturing Buenos Aires. We also see Canada will make some small pushes up, or not really that small, but small advances in these. they'll make pushes into these areas here. They'll also cut me off from, or on the land, cut me off from this area here. You'll see the Canadian American Union is able to push into Washington, British Columbia. But unfortunately for them all, Russia makes a landing in Alaska. Not just one, they make two, and then three, and then four, and just four. Let me just check this. I thought that was okay, but I do also see some success in pushing into the Midwest, and not just me, but Texas will also be able to push in. And pretty much a lot of Texas is just going to be focused. These three countries here are all just going to focus in on here so that I'll be able to work on areas South America and Europe. And then, like, as for Asia, Oceania as well, China, North Korea, and Russia will help me out with that. Iran will help out with the Middle East as well as Russia. Russia, Belarus, and Serbia will all help out with Europe. And Algeria will probably be able to help out with Africa. But if needed, they will be able to send troops over to the Middle East. Okay, back to this. Maybe if this will stop drawing back to this. You see, California is able to make a push, and not just a very small one either. They're practically sweeping through the country. We also see that these guys will be able to make some pushes, and this won't be the only place I see success in, as I'm able to move up in these areas and start making a spearhead towards Edmonton. At least I think. This is pretty much where I'm making my spearhead to. Yeah, Edmonton might be a little bit lower, but I'll be able to capture the capital of the North. I'm just going to call it the North American Union, and pretty much it's going to very well cripple it, but not to the point where it full just surrenders. Alright, that's enough over here. Moving on to this area, I'll have a very slight push into France and be able to capture Northern Ireland as well as some of these islands surrounding Great Britain. And I'll even be able to make a small landing up in Scotland, which eventually grows into a large push. then be able to capture more of the French coastline and down in Algeria. Well, Algeria will be able to start advances into Morocco, but although these aren't the best of countries, they will be able to make very slight push into Algeria. Over in Iran, there is only one front line, but Iran, with the combined troops of all these countries, Iran is going to be pushed back a little bit. Belarus, there will be a small incursion made by Belarus in these northern parts of Ukraine. Two small incursions, as well as one by Russia. And here, Georgia pretty much just falls over, and Russia will start helping out invade Turkey, which leads to Iran being able to push back Turkey. Over in more of Asia, as there's only main front line, there's only one front line that's like really on the land. There's two actually. There's Korea and Vietnam. Hmm. Where have those? Why do those two names sound familiar for wars? That pretty much most of Vietnam will end up being captured by China, and they make a landing in Taiwan, capturing the whole thing. I might be like overpowering some of these countries, but this is just gonna be how it goes. For my empire, definitely overpowering it. Definitely like, underpowering the US. But or I definitely underpowered it. But it's we see more invasions into the UK, and you know, it's almost completely fallen. It's, make more invasions eventually in France and eventually reaching to Italy. And Serbia is going to get folded in this. Yeah. Um. Okay, Serbia's gone now, and Kaliningrad. Oops. Kaliningrad is going to start getting invaded into. Not by much. And the same is also going to be said for Belarus. Also see Finland being able to make small invasions into Russia. Like Russia's going to be focusing mostly either in this area here or this area over here or this area up here. But it's at this point where something pretty unfortunate happens. The rest of the world is going to pretty much join this coalition, and now it's going to really get bad. It is now with more of Europe fighting, although it's just like, oh yeah, um, okay, there's one nation that isn't fighting in this. Switzerland will not join a side. But, okay, so Andorra's gone. Monaco as well. Um, but, yeah, it's not gonna go too good anymore. Even Armenia and Azerbaijan are working together in this. Actually, that's not true. Azerbaijan's gonna join. Yeah. Oh, but they will invade into it. So there's some areas where I'll still be able to, like, or me or my allies will still have advantage. But like Argentina is going to get completely folded over. Um, now since and now troops from here are going to start coming up, and this is where the first major defeat of this episode is, as I lose tons of land in Peru with the almost complete combined force of Africa. Algeria is like, since some troops from other areas are still arriving, Algeria will be able to hold their ground for a bit. But in like all this, they lose a lot. They also lose all lands gained in Morocco. And here we see something else. Uprisings, mostly from Madrid. We also see some over in Lisbon and some over in Dublin. So this is going to be parts of my empire that are starting to revolt. And actually, it's just going to be in Europe, but these areas will be be able to hold their own for a bit. These are like funded rebellions too. The Spanish one especially is going to do quite a bit of damage. And there even is a small landing made by Morocco here. You then see Moroccan troops invade into Algeria, and Algeria is going to end up just surrendering, which means I have the combined force of Africa against all this fictional stuff over here, plus China, North Korea, Iran, Russia, and Belarus. Um, some Alright, Europe. My troops are getting pushed back, mostly because they're like, retreating to help fight the rebellion. I think I had actually captured Rome, but not anymore. And yeah. But since I will be able to, since my troops are coming back to fight the rebellion will lose some ground. Morocco is also kicked out of Iberia again, and I will be able to push back into and fully simmer down the the rebellion in Ireland. However, I will lose all of Cornwall and some Wales as well. Kaliningrad will eventually fall over, and more pushes into Russia are made. St. Petersburg is captured, and that's a major blow. And eventually more areas of Belarus pushed into. Eventually, Belarus is going to have to withdraw all its troops from these two areas, and Belarus will be getting pushed into even more. They will also be invading into Russia, and yeah, it's not going too well. You then see some of this areas in Kashmir, or like just this general area. And like I know Pakistan and India would not be on the same sides. I'm just not gonna change it at this point. There'd be so much I'd have to change if I want enemies to not be on the same side. But push. They'll be the enemy will be able to push into Iran more, and a naval landing is made here. They'll be able to fully capture this area here, and we once again see troops, Moroccan troops, get into Iberia. Although this time it's with help of African forces. Eventually, Russia is going to start getting pushed back, and they'll lose some of the areas they had gained in Ukraine. They'll lose this incursion. Belarus is going to completely fall over, and a large sweeping of Russia is made. There'll even be areas here where we see troops from these countries here push into Russia. But a lot of this these countries are going to be focusing in on Iran. And, it's not going too well at all. Eventually, China starts getting pushed back here, down here, and Taiwan is completely recaptured. South Korea will be able to make an invasion into North Korea and pretty much capture Pyongyang and North Korea, not China. And North Korea will surrender over. We then see, let's see, more invasions made into China. Eventually, China or Mongolia and Kazakhstan will connect up with one another, and using this area here, they will begin to form a very large spearhead going towards Beijing. Some Mongolian people will, like, never mind, I noticed. Mongolian troops will invade into China, and you see some more pushes into China here. Alarms are now are sounding in China, and we have another spearhead being made down in here. This one's goal is just to encircle the troops that are left here. They do, and these troops are pretty much goners. We'll then see Mongolia be able to invade more into China. And pretty much Beijing is captured somewhere in here. And China's just going to end up surrendering over. Iran will eventually end up surrendering, as well as Azerbaijan. All claims into Turkey, Armenia, and Georgia are lost. And Russia is kicked out of Crimea and eventually Ukraine as well. Back in the Americas, I've lost every game as with every country that I'm fighting, or as with every other rebellion. I lost. I've lost my gains into Peru and pretty much everywhere in South America, and I've also pretty much lost any gains in South America. Actually, oops, I lose all my land in South America, and eventually the troops start pushing up. Yeah, it's really not good for me. The North American Union is going to be able to recapture the St. Lawrence River, so as Labrador and Newfoundland. This this island that I couldn't remember. And yeah, there's this peninsula here. And now they're starting to get into some of the first territory I had ever gotten. Eventually, there will be a revolt down in the capital area. A very small revolt, but the idea spreads. Detroit, Chicago, and Toronto. The idea also gets done in New York, as well as the rest of Long Island, and way out here in Minneapolis. Down in Miami, there's revolts, and the biggest one is in Washington, D.C., the area around Washington, D.C. And these very well funded rebellions captured the areas here. And as they get a lot of the land around here, eventually they capture Lansing, capital, and I I'm eventually captured in this all, and much everyone is going to surrender over. Or, I, I will surrender the uh, the Wolf Empire is what I like to call my empires. All the land up here is lost, and at this point, everyone just surrenders. Just making these random colors, random shades of blue. Why am I even doing this? Oh well. Yeah, Russia's the last one left. They surrendered. And, time for the peace treaty. Before we go, one last look back here at my great empire. I'm just going to recolor. I'm going to recolor all of the land I have back to what it was, what my empire was at. And here is one final look at my at my empire. My sphere of influence would have looked something like this. Down to here and back up to here. But that let's get to the peace treaty. All it is the world is completely reverted back to its original self. And pretty much I am now exiled to um find a random island. I'm just exiled. Um and I'm pretty much no longer allowed um to exist on any island any island or any country in the world. Yeah. Once again, let's look back at my once great empire. Wait, oh, I didn't I didn't return these to me. There. This is one final look at my empire.